Hey, Long Walkers, we're finally getting a movie for The Long Walk by New Line Cinema. And the screenplay was written by James Vanderbilt, and it's going to be directed by Andre Overdahl. Maybe you don't know these names, but they're up and coming. Many have tried to get the movie made, going back to 1988 with George A. Romero. He wrote the screenplay and directed Night of the Living Dead, but for whatever reason that never happened. Then Frank Darabont got the rights in 2007 and was trying to get the novel adaptation made into a movie, but that never happened. Then the rights expired, and James Vanderbilt, who had written the screenplay on spec without even having the rights, snatched it up with his partner Brad Fisher, and they are producing it along with William Shattuck. Now, I read that Stephen King loved this adaptation. I've also read that it's very close to the spirit of the book, and of course, I don't know what that means. They would like to shoot it in Maine to be true to the book, but due to weather constraints, that may not be possible. They're also considering California, Australia, and Eastern Europe locations. Now, there's no release dates or casting news as of July 10th, 2019. But I did hear that Overdahl is considering hiring some of the young actors for the movie that's coming out later this year. Actually, August 9th from CBS Films. It's called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So some of the actors that he's familiar with, he'd like to work again on The Long Walk. I don't know who they are. Now, Overdahl is a critically acclaimed award-winning director from his mystery thriller, The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Now, let's go back to the novel. It's been compared to The Hunger Games, The Maze Runner, Death Race 2000, Battle Royale, The Condemned, and even The Running Man. Some have said the Long Walk may evolve into The Running Man. But these all came after The Long Walk was written. So The Long Walk was actually pretty visionary for its time. And it's strange that when Stephen King wrote this book in the late 60s, he couldn't get it published even in the early 70s. And I'm wondering why. And it's obvious that the book was reworked in the late 70s before he published in 79. And I'm wondering what the book was like before he reworked it and why it couldn't get published. Could be that it was too controversial at the time with the Vietnam War, because it's kind of an allegory for the Vietnam War. Now, some say the book is set in the near future, but it's actually quite dated. That there's a character that uses a station wagon rather than an SUV. There's a telephone booth. There's film cameras. The reporter has a mic with a cable on it rather than a wireless mic. There's flash bulbs. And the money. When they talk about money, inflation has made things way more expensive as far as how much people earn. And the cost of a delivery for a baby, when Scram is saying he's got $700 for his baby, the average cost is $3,500 these days. And they mentioned the Ladies' Aid, which was disbanded long ago. So there's lots of examples. There's Garrity picks up a page from a magazine, and there's a Charles Atlas ad. You don't see Charles Atlas ads anymore. There was Stephen King mentions Ron Howard with a heart-on, and what he was referring to was Happy Days, that 70s sitcom, when Ron Howard played a 16-year-old. So these kind of things give it dated. I mean, if it was in our current time, near future, we would have things like GPS, robots, artificial intelligence, killer drones, news drones, self-driving electric cars, iPhones, Androids, Apple Android watches, and so on. So, I mean, of course, Stephen King couldn't know about all that at the time, but he didn't really set it so much in the future. There was Actually, the excerpt on the first cover said it is near future, and at the time when he wrote the book in '66, the technology that he described was actually a little bit futuristic, so sort of accurate as far as that goes. But it was published in '79, and I suppose the technology was a little futuristic even in '79. But what it actually is an alternate reality, and we know because there's several instances of alternate history for World War II, for example. Lots of names are misspelled on purpose, like Popular Mechanics, spelled with an X. That's not a typo. that's a definite clue that that's an alternate reality. And here's one alternate reality hint that most of you probably missed. I missed, but I researched it. When Abraham and Baker are trading dimes, flipping dimes, and it's this game. I don't even know how it's played, but anyway, the dime is described as the Potomac River framed in laurel leaves, and I spent a few hours researching it and couldn't find it. I went to a coin shop, and they researched it, and there's no such American dime with that tail, description of that on the tail. So that's an alternate history, alternate reality. So you just don't see movies about alternative realities. I mean, IMDb.com does have 450 movies that have alternate reality as a keyword, but those are movies where something happens. There's an explanation. For example, in the movie Yesterday, there's a worldwide blackout, and a guy gets hit by a truck, and when he wakes up in the hospital, he finds out that the Beatles never existed. So, but that's like given an explanation. I'm talking about a movie that you go into and it's like current day and things are just slightly different, and it's obvious that it's an alternate reality. You just don't see that. Think about it. So I researched mainstream movies. I didn't go through all 450, but the mainstream movies, I could only find 2, and they were Watchmen, which is based on the comic, and Bright, which was a made for Netflix movie with Will Smith. And I saw both of those, and those were interesting alternate realities. I'm sure there's more. Let me know in the description if you've got some ideas as to some other movies too. But my point is that it's extremely rare. So if the Long Walk movie set does appear in the past or present, but they do the whole alternate reality thing, then that would be very cool. I'm hoping they do. Now, I thought about maybe they put a twist on it, like maybe instead of boys, it's girls. But I doubt that. But I think what they could do is make it half girls, half boys, and then there'd be some romance involved. I mean, they are trying to make it a coming-of-age movie, like the Stand By Me and It. But actually, I mean, if they do go bold, then they'd have to have some, like, McFreeze's like hints of being bisexual in the book. Like, he's kind of romantic, flirting with Garrity. He says, "Just go on dancing with me like this forever, Garrity, and I'll never tire. We'll scrape our shoes on the stars and hang upside down by the moon." That's a pretty romantic thing, and leaves Garrity confused. He just doesn't. His gaydar is off. But I'm hoping that if they do all boys, that they make McFreeze kind of bisexual, and get some kind of love story going on between 2 characters. That's coming of age. That would be bold. That would be controversial. So anyway, that's it. See the link in the description. I have this whole webpage where I'm tracking what's going on with the movie. I've got links to articles and links to other YouTube updates, and of course I'll do a review. So if you want updates, then subscribe. Alright, I'll see you later, Long Walkers.